Hey guys, it's Josie here and you're listening to the Yoga Local podcast, which I'm recording here at our studio in Wellingborough. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining. I have a question for you today, and it's about whether or not you have ever decided to stay in a job or stay in a relationship that was really unhealthy just because it felt familiar. Okay, I know I have been in that situation in the past. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. It's about the fear of endings and how yoga can help us to overcome those fears. Because if you think about it, anything that is preventing us from moving past something that's unhealthy needs to be addressed, it needs to be seen, it needs to be witnessed, no matter how difficult that situation is. And whether you're new to yoga or you're a dedicated practitioner that's just looking for the teachings that go beyond posture, understanding this concept of the fear of endings, or as yoga explains it as Abinevesha, this can really start to enrich your everyday life and deepen your practice, and I'm going to explain how. So first of all, I want to explore what Abinevesha is, and you just get a little bit more familiar with the different types of fear. So Abinevesha comes from the yogic philosophy and translates loosely as the fear of death. Okay, so yes, that is a little bit morbid. No one likes to go there. It can bring up triggering feelings, emotions, and thoughts. Okay. But like most teachings in yoga, there's more to it than that. It has more depth, it has more layers to it. And yes, death is a major fear for most of us. Why? Because it's that final frontier. It's that last step into the unknown. We have no idea. And there is something that really prevents us from going there because the mind can't deal with what it doesn't know. And that's the point of this teachings, because sometimes we have to embrace change. We have to, die to what's already known, who we already are, what we already believe, what we already think, in order to become who we can be and take on new perspectives and take on new understanding and new wisdom. Most of us hold on to the familiar because it feels safe. And that's even when it doesn't serve our highest good. Being in that job that's not serving us and not taking us forward, or doesn't give us a sense of fulfillment, or being in that relationship that is toxic. Okay, that can be friendships, it could be your intimate partner. Either way, if it's not serving our highest good, we have to start questioning it. And yeah, everything can be telling you to leave. Everything can be telling you that it's not working, but it's a really powerful pull to stay with what feels comfortable and what feels safe. And the beauty of a dedicated yoga practice taught well and practiced in the way it's supposed to be practiced is designed to help us to face those fears, to overcome those fears, to transform and to grow beyond them, move through them, or put them to one side to let them go, so that we can start to explore this deeper connection to ourself, our true self, that's beyond the level of fear, and start to guide us calmly and safely towards our dreams, our goals, without fear, without holding back, without settling for just being okay with comfortable, because even something is unhealthy, as I said before, it can feel comfortable, it can feel safer than what we don't know. So sure, it's unhealthy, but it feels better than stepping into something that could be better. And so I just want you to think about that. Is there something that you are staying in because the idea of anything different feels more scary than the scariness of staying? Okay, so let's walk through a few kinds of fears of ending. So death is the ultimate ending, but there's other There's other endings that we may fear as we start to evolve through practice. Our identity starts to shift, our personality, our ego kind of personality, the construct that we've created to live in this world can start to shift. We can start to challenge that. So that will bring in a sense of fear. Just as if, you're usually the funny guy or the funny girl in the room, and you've been known, as that all your life, and suddenly you'll change your identity and you don't want to be identified as the funny one anymore. That can be scary because there's, you're presenting a new you. And what if the people around you don't like the new you? I've experienced this myself as I've shifted and transformed. I was a journalist for the majority of my working life, 25 to 28 years, to be precise. And then, it's taken time, but gradually I've shifted and moved away from that person. And, and a lot of things have moved as a result. And and that's meant a lot of relationships have shifted, a lot of situations that I would normally have been in have changed. So it's scary, and that can prevent us from exploring ourselves as anything other than what we already know. Okay, another ending, losing your job. I can relate to this one, the fear of losing your job. And sometimes the rug will get pulled from underneath you. Maybe your health will kind of be that vital ingredient that leads you to actually make that decision to leave your job. But if you're in a kind of a feeling of just kind of getting through, and it's not too bad to leave, but it's not great. That's a really hard place to be in. And the fear of losing your job, even if you hate it, even if it's not giving you that satisfaction, even if you're waking up dreading going to work, or just waiting for the next holiday to come, it's not a great, healthy place for you to be. And yet we'll stay in it because the fear of actually losing that job, because of the stability it gives us, but financially, because of the relationships, the colleagues that we have, the friendships that we've formed, and the status also that it gives us. Fear of losing that can be overwhelming and can really shut down that deep inner knowing that this isn't right and that you need to move on. Okay, fear of losing money, which is obviously, can be related to, losing your job. But taking a financial risk on something, a business, taking a financial risk on a business, knowing that you have no idea whether or not it's going to be successful. I mean, you can put your heart and soul into something. But there is that point where, in order to overcome any fears that are going to stop you, then you've got to push past that fear of financial risk and go for it. But there is that inner voice that's saying, what if we fail? What if we end up with nothing? And that could put the brakes on any dreams and desires to want to do that. Fear of hardship, which can come from, fear of losing your job or financial risk, okay? And also, when we move out of our comfort zone, then things do get hard. We have to maybe relearn a new skill. We have to navigate a new situation. We have to do things that we maybe haven't done before, and that can feel really hard. And facing that hardship, facing that change can be really tough. And you probably even convince yourself before you've even started, well, that's going to be so tough. That goes in the too hard box. I'm not even going to go there. I won't know how to do it. I will look stupid. All the things that stop us from moving forward, kind of rooted in this fear of hardship. And then we have the fear of outcome. the worry about what will happen if things don't go the way that you planned. And incidentally, they very rarely do go the way you planned. So yoga is a practice that teaches us to, set an intention but let go of the outcome, because we cannot know the various different complexities of how things are gonna move in life, and the different interactions, the different collaborations, the different things that are weaved into the tapestry of life that brings everything together. We can only have an intention, we can only kind of nurture that intention, but the actual outcome, that's not something that we can necessarily predict with any great authority. And again, that causes a sense of fear. Will it all be a waste of time? So again, these are all obstacles. We're talking about the kleshas here, and Abinevesha is that fifth klesha, that ultimate fear of ending, of loss. So let's just compartmentalize these different fears, because we have rational fear, right? And we have irrational fear. So when you think about it, when you're scared of losing something that you have already, and then you worry about the pain that you might go through and the suffering that might cause, that's a rational fear. There is a rationale behind that. But there are also fears that are impulsive, and we don't always recognize them straight away. They just bubble up to the surface, and they can be kind of knee-jerk fears. And they're kind of rooted in rejection and validation, being accepted. We all want to belong, and doing anything that moves us out of our safety net, our comfort zone, or anything that may make us look foolish, or give us that feeling of failure, that can be terrifying. And the last thing we want as a human species, or a human being, is to be ostracized. That's a big fear, right? We don't want to be ostracized, so we tend to play it safe. So how do we move forward despite our fears? Okay, so yoga is a practice of self-empowerment and enrichment, and it tells us to reach our next level of who we can be, and to reach our next level of practice, we must go beyond certain constructs that we have created for ourselves, and also society has placed upon us, on who we are and how we show up, and what we can do and what we can't do, and use that to then propel us forward into higher states of consciousness, higher states of awareness, which will eventually lead us to the ultimate goal of yoga, which is samadhi and self-realization, knowing who you are completely and connected to all things. That process, and it is a process, and it's a hard process, so we will be going through hardship. There will be a sense of letting go of an idea of who we think we are. There will be a letting go of our current ways of thinking, being, and doing. We have to die to those things in order to reach those loftier states. And this is what the whole teaching of Abinevesha is leaning us towards, like, face this fear of endings, because it's part of the process of growing and evolving. The sages knew that we were going to have to face our fears on this path. This is not an easy path. Yoga is not just about stretching, relaxing, like absolving any kind of any of your worries. It's really about facing them. It's not about denying them. It's not about pushing them away, forgetting them for an hour. This is real stuff of bringing them to the surface and intentionally bringing up that fear so that we can overcome it. So there's challenge in yoga, mentally as well as physically. And if that's not currently happening in your practice, then maybe question the kind of practice that you are working with right now. So yeah, we have to face our fears, and that might be scary, especially if we lose our sense of stability. And this is why we have to find the stability in our posture and the stability of our breath, because that's what's going to give us that capacity to start steering the mind beyond those reactive fears, those instant impulsive fears, and start to see them for what they are and go, you know what, I'm going to do it anyway, and overcome those fears and see what's on the other side. Okay, so it's all about essentially getting comfortable with being uncomfortable, but also with that unknown, and stepping into the unknown, and seeing that as an adventure, right? As a frontier to be reached, and to step beyond as well. So how do we bring that onto our mats? Really easily, right? First of all, it's when we start to work with Abinevesha, there has to be that letting go, that dying to who you are, to who you can become. And so in your yoga asana practice, we can start to use the postures to get used to letting go and releasing. And releasing, things like, how should this pose go? How should it look? Allowing yourself to explore the pose and not feel like it has to have a fixed outcome, and not have any restriction on how you meet resistance along the way. We can meditate on change at the end of our yoga session. Every yoga session that we do here, every complete session ends with meditation. And why? Well, because it starts to move us towards that frontier when we're moving from the known to the unknown in higher states of awareness and in meditative states. That's when we start to explore realms that we're not familiar with, okay? And we can also drop into that space these teachings of impermanence and things constantly shifting, and really get into that's the stability of the part of us that is unchanging and stable and unmoving and connected to all things. We can embrace the breath. Your breath is a powerful tool, probably the most powerful tool really to embrace change. And when you're in poses, we use the breath to bring some grit, to bring some moments of discomfort, so that we can focus on that conscious breathing and bring our mind into a calm state via the breath. The breath and the mind are mirrors of each other. If our breath is calm, our mind is calm. So as we're finding that challenge in the posture, if we're breathing smoothly and calmly, then we are finding that stability and calm within the self. And equally, if we start to influence the breath in terms of creating provocation when we hold a breath via kumbhaka in a deep pose, there's stuff comes up, energy comes up, and we can hold that with that more stable part of who we are. That stable mind comes into play, and we can move beyond the fear of holding the breath, of being still, of being silent, and just start to get anchored in all that changes, all that develops, all that comes in. We're bombarded on a daily basis with all that comes in. Life is constantly changing. Our bodies are constantly changing. Things are shifting all the time. So we need to get comfortable with this. We need to embrace that things are going to come to an end, and something new will come from that change. And then can we be resilient, and can we be stable and move through that? We can let go of comparison. It's a big one in yoga, looking around the room, trying to compare your posture to someone else's posture. It's an absolute waste of time and energy, and will only destroy your sense of calm and steadiness, which again is something that we need in order to progress. Everyone's journey is unique, and comparing ourselves, telling ourselves we're not good enough, this is just going to, again, bring us on a backwards path, okay? Because it will hold us back. We maybe pull away from what we're doing. We maybe not seek out, growth and progress, and then we would be bouncing back to where we started. So, final thing you can do is, in this podcast anyway, I'm sure there's many other things that we can be doing in our practice to just embrace the fear of endings. But it's about a constant reflection exercise. So journal after your practice, and just jot down your thoughts and experiences during and after each session. It's through reflection that we do start to better understand ourselves and understand our emotions and understand, what is at play, when do the fears arise, why do they arise, and how does that all contribute to me moving forward in my practice. So letting go of fear. How does that feel? Okay, that's quite a lot. Abinevesha is essentially fear of endings, fear of change. It keeps you stuck, and through yoga we empower ourselves to become unstuck and free from those fears. We can learn to face new fears every day, and that creates more resilience and it creates more power. It starts to make us capable of doing the hard things. I think there's such a lot in life now that enables us to take the easy option. Everything is delivered to our doors these days, to our screens and our devices. And we outsource a lot of our power to external organizations, people, and we forget just how capable we are. And actually, when we do the hard things, when we fight through our doubts, when we overcome our fears, when we really start to know ourselves and we can stand in our truth and just know that we're supported and we can do the hard thing, that translates into everything. If you can do a yoga practice as it's meant to be taught, as it's meant to be practiced, you will learn to become your most solid, self-assured, self-empowered, resilient version of you that you could possibly imagine. And that means you don't have to rely on external validation. You don't have to rely on external sources. You empower yourself through your practice, and learn that you can just go beyond any fear and any doubt. And it might not always come out the way that you anticipate, but there is this fresh new beginning that will be birthed from drawing something to an end. And if we can learn to embrace that and go with the flow of life's natural ebbs and flows, then we reduce the resistance, we reduce the grasping, we reduce our grip, our hold, we reduce our tension, and we learn to live more in life's natural rhythms, and that's where the ease comes from. So if that's something you would like for you, then I encourage you to think about practicing yoga. It's your daily discipline, your daily practice that leads you back to all these things. And if you do it consistently over time, as I said, you will become the most connected version of you that you can be. You will have an unbreakable bond with yourself. You'll absolutely know you can rely on yourself, and you will know that, you know, come what may, you will be supported. So that's it for today. Please do connect with me, have a conversation, tell me what you think to this podcast. Tell us what you're afraid of losing, you know, whether it's your identity, whether it's your job, whether it's a relationship. Tell me if these are preventing you from pursuing your dreams. What is your dream? And let's embrace change together. Let's face our fears together. And yeah, remember, change is a part of life. Life is beautiful, and we can embrace it one step at a time. Okay, that's all I have for you today. I will see you on the next podcast. Bye for now.